Hello and welcome to this edition of City Hall Insider. I'm Jim Marshall of the New Bedford Cable Network, and as we gather here in this beautiful fall day, Brian Nobrega is going to join us. He is the Director of Emergency Management here in the city of New Bedford, and we want to talk a little bit about storm preparation and hurricanes because it is hurricane season. We're actually kind of in the peak right now for our neck of the woods as far as hurricane season. I know, people who remember Bob, that was August, but traditionally, if you will, September till pretty much the end of October is
middle of August to middle of October is when we're heightened up.
And the city has really done a lot to increase awareness of hurricane preparedness, and the big thing obviously is the release of a hurricane plan that just came out recently. That you and others have been developing for a couple of years, if I'm not mistaken.
The plan took probably about 2 years. There was an existing plan in the city, but the city's changed quite a bit. You know, we have wind now. The airport's changed. The port's definitely changed. You know, and the whole city has changed. So we just updated it and added a lot of good things. Like you said, it wasn't just me. It was really a team effort with all the major players, police, fire, EMS, DPI, DFFM, the Port of New Bedford, the school department. A lot of departments came together and looked at this plan along with a couple other plans that we have about to come out as well.
You know, the funny thing is when you see the plan, first of all, the development of the plan, I mean, there were meetings that you had. And I know I was in a couple of them too. There are so many departments in the city that are part of this plan. There's almost no department that doesn't play some role in this.
No, every department, you know, we just did a shelter tabletop the other day. I invited Olivia Mello because we use the libraries as cooling and warming shelters, as you know. But she's like, we're ready to go. If we open up a shelter, she said she would have her team there, the ones that are willing to come and help out, which is great. But you're right, every department will have some kind of role to play in the city's response. You know,
and people chuckle. They're like, "Well, what about finance?" Well, you're talking reimbursements. You're talking paying for the response.
Right, correct.
So it's not just the people that you see out that day. It's the departments that's afterwards or beforehand.
The recovery section, the part of the storm. Yeah, correct.
And I think when you look at the plan, which is available online. Talk just a little bit about the plan in general. I mean, again, this is a 2-year project for the city. I know that you were spearheading a lot of. I don't know what the correct terminology is. You role playing, I guess, with scenarios that you will look at. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And when we do a plan, we write a plan. We have a draft of it. We test the plan in a tabletop scenario. You've been at a couple of them. We've had a lot of internal ones as well. We want to test that plan. And if I just write the plan, it's really just a paperweight. But to have input from all the departments playing their role, playing out their responsibilities, that knows that you're going to test that plan, and we're going to test that plan to the most worst case scenario.
Right.
I think you were at the one where we talked about we were doing evacuations, and all of a sudden the main wastewater pump going to the water station blew up, got washed away. That is a real life scenario that could happen. You don't want to test your plan to the lowest capability because then it's giving you a false sense of security. You want to test that to make sure that you're ready to go.
How hard is it from your standpoint, do you see, when you're talking to the police, fire chiefs, and what have you? You know, we really haven't been hit with a big storm.
Everyone's numb to it.
Correct.
Right.
How hard is it, do you think, to execute if we've got and I'm not even saying a 5. If we've got a 3, a Cat 3 coming up the coast, which could do a lot of damage.
Correct. Yeah.
How do we get people to realize, it only takes one people?
Right, and I think with the 20-year of Katrina coming up that just passed, right, that's helping retell the story. Are we 6 feet below sea level? Absolutely not. But Paid Narram Ave area is the low-lying area in the city. That's a lot of houses that are probably built in the 50s, even earlier, that are not on stilts. So that's our ground zero area of making sure that those residents in that area are aware of, if we asked you to evacuate, we want you to evacuate. We're not going to do an evacuation order just because. The hurricane doors. Once those hurricane doors close, the only way out of the south end is through Brock Avenue. So imagine all of a sudden something big happens and everyone's got to get out of the south end. I don't know, south of those hurricane barriers through Brock Avenue. We can handle it, but it's not going to be the greatest.
It's going to take time.
It's going to take time. It's going to take resources. The big thing is we always talk about using your resources within the means. Do we really want to send a lot of truck and engine out, an ambulance and police officers out to this studio in 100-mile-per-hour winds? Absolutely not. We want to get this place cleared out so we can say, hey, we're worried about this area still, but really we don't have to really worry about coming out here saving 50, 60 people. We can come out here and say, this area has been evacuated, this area is safe, we're going to keep this place safe and secure, but now we can keep our resources available to deal with stuff in some other parts of the city.
And it's interesting, like I'll just use us as an example here at Cable Access. It's interesting to me that, for example, our usefulness is prior to the storm and post-storm.
Yep.
In the middle of the storm, there could be no power.
Correct. Yep.
And certainly, as you said, we're not going to be here because they don't want us here.
Right. We don't want people coming down here.
Correct.
We're going to set up checkpoints probably in the whole Taylor School area, limiting the traffic coming down because everyone wants to come to Fort Tabor and look at the waves crashing over the breakwater.
Right. But I'm just saying too is that in the height of the storm, the city personnel are not going to be going out in the middle of 115-mile-an-hour winds to get people. It's almost impossible to do.
We're going to go to priority 1 calls, and that'll be the discretion of the fire chief, the police chief, the mayor. I would probably have a little bit of input on there on saying, okay, this is the weather for the next couple hours. But our first responders are great. They're going to go out. They're going to want to be going out.
Correct.
We tell them that, hey guys, girls, ladies, you're not coming out. They're probably not going to be too happy. But once again, we want to keep those resources safe during the height of the storm. So when the storm passes or we get to a point of the storm that we can actually go out there and do a damage assessment, we're ready for that.
Talk a little bit about, as you're doing this, when we look at the plan, I think one of the things that's interesting in the plan too is sort of the timetable of things.
Yes.
And I think that's probably the most important thing is when the city starts to look at a storm. And then at what point, is it a week? Is it 5 days? I mean, I've seen the report, so I know. But tell people a little bit about how that comes together.
So I can tell you the fire department and DPI, Hurricane Erin was a storm that we were monitoring. And it was a good tabletop exercise, real life tabletop exercises. We're getting information in for National Weather Service. We started looking at that 10 days. As soon as that storm forms, and we have one this morning, I looked at it this morning before I came here, 90% chance of formation of a tropical storm or higher in the next 7 days. So we're already looking at that storm. We're looking at the updates every day. But DPI, the fire department, they're getting their pumps ready, their chainsaws ready, the wood chip is ready. They're getting that stuff ready 10 days out during those blue sky days so that we're ready when it comes out. 5 days out, we're going to either ramp up or we're going to stay at that same alert level. However, we never really let go of that storm until it's past us. Because take, for instance, Superstorm Sandy. That thing was beelining right for us, right? And then all of a sudden it said, nope.
Quick left turn.
Blinker on, I'm taking a left into New Jersey, and look how much devastation that had.
Right.
We even had flooding down in here before the 12 hours before the high tide. So ideally, we're looking at that thing as soon as it pops up on the map and until it passes us.
And when are they made?
So every storm's different, right?
Correct.
I would say we're going to start making decisions 5 days out. Definitely 3 days out is our area. We want to make sure that the city is evacuated and ready to go on the onset of strong tropical force winds. And people might say strong tropical force winds in the Buzzards Bay area is a normal day. It is. However, we're getting ready for a hurricane that's going to be bringing 110 mile.
Right.
Those
aren't diminishing. Those
are sustained 50, 60 mile per hour winds. We want to be ready to go. Everything done. We're going to be monitoring it before those winds start.
What's interesting too is we've had a lot of storms. You were talking about July 3rd when we had a lot of wind and rain. I mean, obviously there's a hurricane plan, but there's so much more weather-wise that impact that could, initiate some part, if not all of the plan.
Correct. Yeah, and the big problem with that is those storms we don't know about.
Correct.
We're getting a couple of days notice, or that July 3rd storm. I was on the phone. We had fireworks that day. I was on the phone with National Weather Service and our contracted weather service, and they were like, you guys are probably going to be fine. You guys should be fine. And all of a sudden, we were delaying the fireworks till 9:30, and our north end got hit pretty bad.
The fireworks are great that night too, because the skies cleared right up.
It was like
perfect night.
Yeah, it was perfect. Yeah, right. Yeah.
You touched on, and I know last year we took a visit to the National Weather Service, and they were talking about how they work with you.
Yep.
That relationship is tremendously important in this whole
Correct. Yeah.
process.
Definitely. Yeah, and we, like every morning, if there's a storm coming, we get briefings, usually 3 times a day. They're monitoring probably a heavy weather system out west tomorrow night, I believe. I looked at it, and I'll keep on looking at it, because if that storm shifts 30 miles, we're going to probably be in that area. But yeah, we have a great relationship with them through MEMA. In the event of a hurricane, MEMA will do these statewide coordination calls, which National Weather Service will be on. And I always ask the question. We got the Port of New Bedford. Every fisherman, every pleasure craft, everybody is fighting for a spot in the Port of New Bedford. So I know Hurricane Erin, the port was hopping 3 days before, because a lot of people with the boaters, those are the guys that take most storms the most serious.
Yeah.
They were coming within the hurricane wall to get some kind of tie-up that just in case this storm happened.
It's interesting when you see there's been so much weather across the country, and I know you keep your eye on it too, flooding and tornadoes and all sorts of things. I don't know if it's apathy or just it's not going to happen here. I mean, mentality-wise, it seems that people don't respond to the emergencies in some cases until it's right there.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
And so, I mean, obviously you're talking to your colleagues all across the country. I would assume that's the biggest challenge you face.
Yep.
But how do you deal with that?
It's tough. Do you want to leave your house in the comfort of your house, even though if you might not have AC or electricity, do you want to leave the comfort of your house? A lot of times people don't want to leave their house because they have pets. So it's very hard to get people to leave probably their biggest investment of their life during a storm. They want to be there, right there with it, and so forth. But I also think that people see what's happening around the country, and they say it's not going to happen to me. And then when it does, they lose everything. And the only thing I can say is, I can't make you leave, but make that decision. Because, if you have grandchildren or, daughters or whatever, they want you here tomorrow. You can always rebuild your house. You can always, move somewhere else in the city. But when we're asking you to evacuate, we would like you to evacuate. We had a press conference not too long ago when we announced this, and the police chief said, if I'm at your door knocking with boots on, it's time to go. And it's true. If we're knocking on your door and we're telling you to go, please take that recommendation and find somewhere else to go. And that right now is the best time to prepare for that. Get ready, figure out where you're going to go. Are you going to go to a hotel? Are you going to go to an aunt's house? Are you going to go to a brother or sister's house? What are you going to do with your elderly parents?
Well, I was just going to, one of the things, I mean, the city has a plan, but you as an individual or a family have to have a plan too.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about what's required in their plan.
So we will always say that an emergency starts with you. Then it goes to the local level, then it goes to the state level, and then it goes to the feds. We don't want to get it to the fed level. The fed level is like September 11th, Hurricane Katrina, and stuff like that. But you need to be prepared. You need to be prepared either to shelter in place for 3 days, or go to our city shelter, or go somewhere. Have 3 to 5 days worth of medication on hand at all times. If you're on oxygen and a hurricane's coming, I would make sure that you have enough oxygen. You reach out to your oxygen company, get that stuff. If you're on a machine that requires electricity, unfortunately, the city doesn't have the ability to hand out generators to everyone.
Right.
You might want to figure out where the closest shelter is, or maybe go to a loved one that does have a generator. You just need to plan ahead of time while on days like this. You don't want to be scrambling 2 days before, 1 day before a hurricane comes, because it's too late. Try going to the grocery store right the day before a blizzard. There's usually no milk or bread left.
Right.
There's a reason, because everyone waits last minute. So if you plan that 3-4 days out ahead of time to start getting prepared, what's the worst case scenario? You have the stuff ready, you just use it anyways.
And you want to make sure you have contacts so that people know where you are and
Correct.
you know where other people are.
Yep.
As you said, you want to have the clothes available. You want to, if you are evacuating, button up your house.
Right. Yep. Protect your house. Yep. Protect your asset.
As much as you can.
Right. Safely.
Cars, gas.
Yep.
Make sure they're able to start. So there's a lot that goes into it, and I know prescriptions is a huge issue. Make sure you have your medication that you need if you're going elsewhere.
And we get a question all the time, what about the medication that needs to stay refrigerated? Well, you know what? If you lose electricity, I always tell people a couple of days before a storm or the day before a storm, turn your refrigerator all the way up so it gets to the coldest. Get some ice so that you can keep that stuff cold. Unfortunately, when a disaster comes, I think everyone's going to be numb for it, because I don't think, I can tell you probably the last time we had multiple days without electricity probably was the blizzard of 15, right?
We've had it, I was going to say, because down here in the south end, I know it wasn't that long ago.
Right.
But we had it was gone for a couple of days, I know that, because we were without power.
Right. So that was the October nor'easter, I believe. Yeah. So, everyone gets numb to it until it affects you, and then that next storm you're prepared. So I'm telling everyone, get prepared now. You can sign up for MB Alert, which will get information. You can make sure you're on the city's Facebook page. Emergency Management has a Facebook page. For hurricanes, Know Your Zone is a big tool. Basically, if you live in the south end, outside of those hurricane doors on Payneham Ave, you should know that where you are. You are evacuation zone A or a zone B. Zone A is most likely we're going to be asking you to evacuate.
The interesting thing too is, I know when you were talking about the storm earlier this summer, I mean, it was the north end with the trees and what have you. I mean, they may be evacuating in the south end, but you've got to take precautions, even if you're the farthest point away from the coast.
That is correct. Yep.
To be aware of the impact.
Right.
I mean, there's different impacts at different parts of the city.
So take, for instance, we're talking about evacuation because of a hurricane. And we're mostly talking about that surge coming up and making destruction of property, not flooding our roads. However, a hurricane comes with a lot of rain. So people on Belleville Avenue, we have a lot of flooding up near the mill area. That's probably going to flood as well. We're not going to evacuate that area due to street flooding, per se, because that's not part of that evacuation. But those people need to be ready for street flooding, basement flooding, and so forth as well.
The city has shelters, and will have shelters in the event, because they always do when the time comes.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, that's part of the plan. The city does that.
Yeah. So we have one city shelter. It's at Keith Middle School. The reason why we do that is it's far enough out of the hurricane evacuation zones, far out of any storm surge that they've ever forecasted. It has generator supply. It has food supply.
Sort of in the middle of the city too.
Yeah, it is in the middle of the city. You got access from 140. A lot of the main roads past that. There's a lot of parking lots for staging. We partner with Red Cross to become a regional shelter, which will give us more assets, more resources into that shelter as well. Of course, our friends over at New Bedford Animal Control will be involved so it's pet friendly. That was a big thing out of Katrina. People did not leave because they didn't have anywhere to put their dogs.
Yeah.
Well, after Katrina, they said that if you're going to open up a storm shelter and you're going to get federal reimbursement funding, it needs to be pet friendly. Service animals are welcome anywhere. Keith is fully ADA accessible, and we actually just did a drill there and went really, really well. We identified some areas that we could use for dormitory, for feeding, and then some areas of the school that we probably wouldn't have people done because, they're not going to build a school for a storm shelter. They got windows, so we want to keep those people away from those areas and so forth.
The other thing too, and you and I were talking off camera about this, which is interesting too. I mean, you mentioned a blizzard. A lot of this stuff is transferable.
Absolutely.
To other storms, and we have had, not in a while, knock on wood, but we have had winter storms that have.
Correct.
I don't think they've required evacuations per se, but they
Not
have.
in this community.
But they have done enough damage, wind, snow, that sort of the city has ramped up, again, in a sense of a plan altogether to try to deal with that too.
Yeah, and a lot of those, and it's outlined in the roles and responsibility. I'll call snow, for this instance, debris. So the lead agency in debris removal is the Department of Public Infrastructure. They're handling the snow, so they're going to handle the snow. Fire department's going to handle rescues and structure fires. EMS is going to handle the medical calls. A lot of the roles and responsibilities outlined in the hurricane plan will just transfer right over to a blizzard, large-scale flooding. A heat wave is a big one as well.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see a lot more 90-degree days.
Right. I think we had 2 heat waves this summer.
Yeah, and we opened up city libraries as cooling shelters. So a lot of that stuff will transfer over. We're in the process of doing a shelter plan, and then probably we're going to look at doing some kind of heavy weather plan, which a lot of that is going to come over for the hurricane. But we really want to take hurricanes seriously in this area.
And I know, for example, I was thinking too, during a couple of the blizzards, we had shelters open at that point
correct.
too.
Yep.
Because we were worried about the winds and what have you down here.
Right.
And we did lose power down here.
Yeah, but no power in the middle of summer is inconvenient, right? Because you probably won't have your AC.
Right.
But if you're running heat and it gets 15 degrees, outside, your house gets below freezing, that means no running water and so forth. So it's a little more serious in that area. However, the guidance, and not saying that we will do this, but the guidance is for sheltering for a winter storm is to everyone to shelter in place, then open up after. And the reasoning behind that is during a hurricane, if we had to emergency evacuate somebody from the house, I am pretty confident with the fire department, the police department, we'll be able to get those people to the shelter, right? We might have to go the long way, but we get 24 inches of snow, that paralyzes us.
Correct.
You're not going to be able to get around. So we'll probably have, and we're talking about this right now, the guidance would be shelter in place once the blizzard passes, once we get this figured out, not figured out, but we get a good sense of where we are on the roads and stuff like that, then we would open up the shelters.
What is and I mean, you can plan for it, and I know we have, because like I said, I've been part of them. You've done more even than I haven't been here. What's still your biggest concern right now?
Well, I could tell you the biggest concern ever, my whole job, is that 9 o'clock phone call at night saying one of our big or a nursing home needs to be evacuated. What are we going to do with those people?
Well, I was going to mention, I mean, there's a lot of high-rise senior housing in the city.
That is correct. And one of them is right outside the evacuation zone, right inside of the hurricane barrier. But you're correct. Yep. Yeah. Is evacuating one of our big housing developments. And I'm not talking about New Bedford housing developments, meaning multiple houses.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like Trip Towers,
right.
And even the apartments down off of Belleville Avenue and stuff like that. That's when you see that in other communities, it's a big event. We had to shelter roughly 30 people after that Royal Crown fire, and then also that rooming house fire. So that was a big task, but we figured it out. We have a plan. We have partners. We have a lot of resources, but it's those no notice events, meaning you
right.
can't have 3 days to get all your ducks in a row.
Right.
It's kind of like you make a phone call and it just happens.
Yep.
Those no notice events is what really keeps me up at night.
Got 3 minutes left. Touch base with people. Where can they find these plans? I mean, there's a lot of information out there. Where can people find this stuff?
So the biggest thing is to go to the city's website, right? Under emergency management, under the mayor's office, you'll be able to find that.
And the flood and the zones there too are like what zone you're in.
There is links within the emergency management department page for that. Yes, there is. But you can go to our Facebook page. We're doing September is Preparedness Month, so we're doing a lot of social media that MEMA has helped us with. Because we want to have a consistent message throughout the Commonwealth.
Right.
We don't want to be saying do this during a hurricane and another community saying the opposite. We want to have a consistent message. So I would say the Facebook pages, the city's webpage, and if you have any questions, reach out to our office. We're going to give you the best answer that we can based on what we know. And I say that is because after every incident, we do a debrief. What went well, what didn't go so well, and what do we need to change? And that's in that plan as well, that once the tropical storm is named and we go into response mode, a week after, 3 days after, whenever we can, we're going to sit down with all those department heads and say, what went well for you, what didn't go well, what do we need to be ready for the next one.
And I think it's important too for people to look at that, because you want to prepare, you want to know what the preparations require, because it's not just, a 2-hour thing. Mm-hmm. For some people, you got to get your house ready, you got to get your yard ready, you got to get the stuff out of your yard that can fly around.
Right.
You want to make sure that you want to make sure, as you said, if you're staying, get food.
Right. Yeah.
So it's
non-perishable food.
Non-perishable.
Yeah.
Batteries.
Yep.
Car. Your car's gassed up. There's a lot of things to do prior to a storm getting there that you will find for your individual plan that's on the website.
Correct.
And I think that's hugely important to look at now instead of 3 days before a storm.
Yeah. And the other thing too is I've driven around after a storm and you hit all these generators running. Well, I can tell you, talking with the former fire chief, we've actually knocked on doors saying, hey, we don't see your generator. Oh, it's in my house. Well, that's not a great place for your generator. I know you don't want it stolen, but now that fumes is going through your house. So if you're using a generator, make sure you're using it properly. If you're using a pump to pump out your basement, make sure that you know what you're doing. Make sure you're plugged into a GFI.
Don't be using power tools if you don't know how to use them.
Yeah, exactly. So, you just get familiar now opposed to when you have to do it, because you're going to be in a rush, you're going to be nervous, you're going to make mistakes.
And the other thing I was just thinking right off the top too, if you see wires down or something like that, please don't touch them.
Yeah, any wire down is considered life, and I will tell you, we don't want you calling 911 for every wire down, because during a storm we're dealing with hundreds and hundreds of wire down calls. Keep that Eversource number handy. Charge your cell phone. Go out and buy one of those battery packs for your cell phone so you can charge it. The Eversource number, you can report your power outage. And I will add that as well. Don't assume that your neighbor's calling out a power outage. Don't assume that Eversource knows that there's a power outage. Call Eversource. Tell them that you have no power at your house. If there's a wire down.
Don't assume it's a cable wire either, please.
Yes, that too. Yeah. Well, some of those actually, believe it or not, have a little bit of current in them. If it's a main line. But if there's no immediate threat to public safety, call that into Eversource. If it's an immediate threat, it's sparking, catching on fire, by all means, pick up that phone, call 911, call the fire department, and we'll get somebody out there as soon as possible.
A lot of information. Good seeing you.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of City Hall Insider. I'm Jim Marshall of the New Bedford Cable Network. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.